What if I told you the most famous season in college football history was built on a lie? That the number one team fell, then fell again and again. That the game of the century didn't decide anything. That a team from Boise, Idaho crashed the sport's most exclusive party and walked out a legend. And that the team everyone doubted demolished the team nobody could beat. This is 2006. August 2006. College football was entering a new era. The BCS had just been reshaped. For the first time, a fifth game was added to the rotation, a standalone national championship game. No more split decisions, no more controversy, or so they thought. Out west, the USC dynasty was beginning to crack. Pete Carroll's Trojans had dominated college football for half a decade, but the empire was showing its first signs of weakness. In the South, something was stirring. Two coaching hires from 2005 were about to change everything. Urban Meyer had arrived at Florida with a revolutionary spread offense. Les Miles took over at LSU, bringing swagger and unpredictability. The power balance of college football was about to shift south, permanently. Meanwhile, the Ohio State Buckeyes were the consensus powerhouse. Troy Smith, their quarterback, looked like a Heisman winner from day one. They had talent, they had swagger, they had destiny written all over them. USC was reloading. Notre Dame was ranked in the top 10. Michigan looked dangerous. Auburn was still living in the shadow of their 2004 perfect season. Ohio State versus USC in the title game. Book it. Print the shirts. Down in Gainesville, Urban Meyer was entering his second season at Florida. The Gators were talented. Chris Leak at quarterback, a young Tim Tebow waiting in the wings, and the fastest defense anyone had ever seen. But nobody truly believed in them yet. Meyer's spread offense was electric, but unproven at the championship level. Florida was good, not inevitable, and out in Boise, Idaho, a team that wasn't even supposed to be part of the conversation was quietly going about its business. The Broncos were a mid-major program with big dreams and nothing to lose. September arrived, the season kicked off, and then college football started eating itself alive. September 16th, 2006, number 2 Notre Dame traveled to Ann Arbor to face Michigan. Michigan destroyed them, 47-21. Just like that, the second best team in America wasn't. Charlie Weiss and Brady Quinn were supposed to be building something special in South Bend, but the Irish were being exposed whenever they faced elite competition, a pattern that would define their season. But that was just the beginning. That same day, Auburn pulled off a defensive masterpiece, beating number 6 LSU 7-3. The Tigers looked like a team nobody wanted to face. Week after week, the college football world watched in disbelief as top teams fell to opponents they had no business losing to. October 7th, unranked Arkansas walks into Jordan-Hare Stadium and shocks number 3 Auburn 27-10. The Razorbacks, led by freshman sensations Darren McFadden and Felix Jones, embarrassed the Tigers. Auburn managed just 60 rushing yards. 1 week later, October 14th, Auburn had to face number 2 Florida. The Tigers were coming off what looked like a humiliating loss to Arkansas. Auburn won 27-17. They beat the number 2 team in the country. The offense didn't even score a touchdown. Trey Smith recovered a blocked punt for a score, and Patrick Lee returned a fumble for another. But Auburn's defense made a statement. Florida was beatable. October 28th, number 3 USC travels to Corvallis, Oregon. Unranked Oregon State stuns them, 33-31. The Pete Carroll dynasty, the team everyone thought would reload and dominate, loses at Reser Stadium. The Trojan era was ending. Right there, in real time. The rankings became a revolving door. Being number 1 felt like a curse. But here's where 2006 gets really interesting. While the traditional powers were cannibalizing each other, teams nobody saw coming were rising from the chaos. Rutgers, yes, Rutgers was suddenly relevant. Louisville was surging. West Virginia was dangerous. The Big East left for dead after losing Miami. Virginia Tech and Boston College to the ACC was suddenly alive again. And in Winston-Salem, Wake Forest, picked 10th in the ACC, starting a backup quarterback, was pulling off something even more improbable under Jim Grobe. The Demon Deacons just kept winning. Florida was watching all of this, surviving, winning ugly when they had to. They barely escaped Tennessee, 21-20. They got upset by Auburn. They weren't perfect, But here's the thing about 2006. Nobody was perfect, except two teams the system actually acknowledged. November 17th, 2006, the day before the biggest game of the season, Michigan football lost its patriarch. Bo Schembechler, legendary coach, architect of Michigan football, the man who defined the rivalry with Ohio State, died of a heart attack at age 77. The next day, the Wolverines would have to play the biggest game of their lives. November 18th, 2006, the Horseshoe, Columbus, Ohio. Number 1 Ohio State, number 2 Michigan, both undefeated. This wasn't just a game, this was a cultural event, the greatest rivalry in sports, both teams unbeaten for all the marbles, and now played in the shadow of Bo's death. They called it the game of the century, and it lived up to the hype. Michigan came out inspired, playing with emotion and fury, while Ohio State roared back with championship confidence. Troy Smith made plays, Michigan's defense hit back harder. It was brutal, physical, everything you could want from a rivalry game played for the national championship. Final score, Ohio State 42, Michigan 39. The Buckeyes had done it. They were 12-0. They were going to the championship game. The sport assumed the story was over. Ohio State had survived. They were the chosen ones. But then, the debate started. Should Michigan get a rematch? They'd just played the number 1 team down to the wire on the road, the day after losing Bo Schembechler. They were clearly one of the 2 best teams in the country. Or should a one-loss SEC champion get a shot? Florida had beaten everyone the SEC threw at them. They'd won in the swamps of Gainesville, in Death Valley at LSU, in the hostile environments only the SEC provides. When the BCS rankings came out, Florida was number 2. They were going to the championship. Michigan was staying home. The sport exploded in debate, but the Gators didn't care about the noise. They had 1 game left. While the national spotlight was on Ohio State and Michigan, something was falling apart in Miami. The Hurricanes, the nation's strongest program at the start of the millennium, were collapsing in real time. Multiple on-field brawls, player suspensions, a player killed by a jealous teammate. After a season of chaos and tragedy, Larry Coker was fired. The U, as the world had known it, was over. The power vacuum in the South was widening, and the SEC was ready to fill it. December 2nd, 2006, Jacksonville, Florida, the SEC championship game, number 4 Florida versus number 8 Arkansas. Arkansas had already stunned Auburn earlier in the season. They were physical, tough, dangerous. But Florida's defense had other plans. They flew to the ball. They hit like they were making a statement. Florida wins, 38-28, SEC champions. But something bigger had happened in 2006 than just 1 game, 1 season, 1 championship. The SEC was transforming. For years, the conference had been known for defense. Brutal, physical, ground and pound defense. But the offense, that was always the knock. That all changed in 2006. Meyer's spread at Florida, Gus Malzahn's hurry up at Arkansas, the idea that Southern speed wasn't limited to one side of the ball. SEC speed wasn't just on defense anymore, and the rest of college football was about to get the message. Florida wasn't just fast on defense, they were fast everywhere. Chris Leak could execute Meyer's spread to perfection. Percy Harvin was a blur, and when they needed short yardage, they'd put in Tim Tebow and dare you to stop him. This was the new SEC, and the Big Ten had no idea what was coming. While the major conferences were sorting themselves out, a small program in Idaho was about to crash the party. Boise State. The Broncos had gone undefeated in the regular season, but nobody was taking them seriously. They played in the WAC. They didn't face anyone. They were a nice story, nothing more. But the BCS had created a rule. Non-AQ conference teams could earn a bid if they met certain criteria. Boise State met them. They were going to the Fiesta Bowl. Their opponent? The Oklahoma Sooners, a blue blood program, Big 12 champions, everything Boise State wasn't. The Broncos were 7.5-point underdogs. Nobody gave them a chance. Remember that. Oh, and I think this was the year I noticed Boise State's blue field. Does that field hurt anyone else's eyes? January 8th, 2007. University of Phoenix Stadium, Glendale, Arizona. The BCS National Championship game. Number 1 Ohio State Buckeyes 12-0, Heisman Trophy winner Troy Smith, the most dominant team in college football, versus number 2, Florida Gators, 12-1, Urban Meyer's spread offense, the fastest defense in America. Ohio State received the opening kickoff, and 7 seconds later, Ted Ginn Jr. took it to the house. 93 yards. Touchdown Buckeyes. The route was on, right? Wrong. Ginn injured his foot celebrating in the end zone. He was done for the game. And then, Florida woke up. Chris Leak, Percy Harvin, Dallas Baker. The spread offense clicked. They moved at a tempo Ohio State had never seen. But it was the defense that made the statement. Jarvis Moss blocked a field goal. The Gator defensive line overwhelmed Ohio State's offensive line. Troy Smith, the Heisman winner, looked confused, frustrated, human. Halftime, Florida 21, Ohio State 14. The second half wasn't a game. It was a dismantling. Florida's defense suffocating every drive while the offense kept scoring, methodically breaking Ohio State's will. Final score, Florida 41, Ohio State 14. It wasn't close. The most dominant team in college football got dominated. The team nobody fully believed in had just shocked the world. Urban Meyer, in just his second season at Florida, had returned the Gators to the mountaintop, their first national championship since the days of Steve Spurrier and Danny Werfel. The SEC had sent a message: we're faster than you, we're tougher than you, and we're just getting started. Over the next 7 years, the SEC would win every single national championship. It started here, in Glendale, with Urban Meyer's spread offense dismantling the best the Big Ten had to offer. But the story wasn't over. 1 week earlier, in the very same stadium, the Fiesta Bowl kicked off. Boise State versus Oklahoma, the little program that wasn't supposed to be there versus the powerhouse that was supposed to crush them. For 3 quarters, it looked competitive. Boise State hanging around, trading punches with a giant they had no business standing toe-to-toe with. Then Oklahoma took control. They scored, then scored again. With just over a minute left, they were up 35-28. Boise State's dream was dying. But Jared Zabransky, Boise State's quarterback, drove them down the field. 4th and 18 from the 50-yard line. 18 seconds left. The Broncos ran a hook and ladder play to perfection. Zabransky threw to Drisson James. James caught it, turned, and lateraled to Gerard Rabb. Rabb took off down the sideline. Touchdown. Overtime. Oklahoma scored a touchdown on their first possession. Boise State had to match. They did, but they didn't kick the extra point. Head coach Chris Peterson called for a 2-point conversion. Win or go home. The Broncos lined up. They ran a play they'd been saving for months. The Statue of Liberty. Quarterback Zabransky faked the throw, held the ball behind his back like the Statue of Liberty's torch, and running back Ian Johnson took it from his hand and ran it in. Boise State 43, Oklahoma 42. The impossible had happened. Then Johnson proposed to his girlfriend, a Boise State cheerleader, on the field. She said yes. The only undefeated team in college football was a team from Boise, Idaho. A team that wasn't supposed to be there. A team that proved the system could be beaten. The BCS would never be the same. When the confetti settled on the 2006 season, college football had been fundamentally altered. Wake Forest finished with their first 10-win season in program history and an ACC championship. Rutgers had their best season ever. Boise State had become a legend. Notre Dame's struggles continued into a Sugar Bowl demolition by LSU, exposing cracks that would never heal. And in the background, a hire was made that would reshape the next 2 decades. Alabama had struck out on Rich Rodriguez. They needed a home run. They found one in Miami Dolphins head coach Nick Saban. The SEC wasn't just dominant now, it was building a dynasty. Meanwhile, down in Boone, North Carolina, Appalachian State won their 2nd straight FCS championship, a program on the verge of shocking the world. But that's a different story. The 2006 season didn't break college football. It revealed what was already broken. It exposed the flaws in the BCS system. How do you rank teams when everyone keeps losing? When style points matter more than survival? The Michigan-Florida debate raged all off-season. Did the Wolverines deserve a rematch? Or did Florida prove that conference championships matter? The answer came in that 41-14 beatdown. But more than any single game, 2006 marked a seismic shift. The Trojan dynasty was over, the Big Ten's dominance was ending, the Big East had found new life. The SEC had just announced its arrival as the sport's dominant conference. Florida's speed and physicality became the blueprint. Over the next 7 years, the SEC would win every single national championship. Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Florida again, all of them built on the foundation laid in 2006. The BCS system, which had just added a 5th game to supposedly fix everything, had been exposed as fundamentally broken. The +1 system was laid bare as insufficient. The calls for a playoff grew louder. But more than anything, 2006 taught us that perfection doesn't matter as much as we think. A year where perfection was punished, where the best team wasn't the most dominant, where survival mattered more than style, where a team from Boise proved that dreams aren't limited by conference affiliation, and where a team from Gainesville, Florida proved that sometimes the doubted become the undeniable. We love doing these college football season videos. Let us know in the comments if you'd like us to do more. Thanks for watching.